They call me a siren, but they never understand the why behind the song. It's not about leading men to the rocks. It's about the moment they realize they want to drown. My desire isn't soft. It's a sharp, jagged thing wrapped in Italian silk. I'm into the overwhelming gaze. The moment when someone looks at me and realizes that my beauty is just a cage for something much filthier. Tonight was about a man named Julian. Not the model you know, but a shadow of him. A man who smelled of expensive gin and cold intentions. I wanted to see if I could break the architecture of his restraint. I wanted to be the glitch in his perfect system. The scene, the suite on the 44th floor. I stood by the window, the city lights reflecting off the sheer black lace of my bodysuit. It's a piece of art, really. French embroidery that follows the curve of my ribs like a skeletal caress. I heard the door click. I didn't turn around. I wanted him to see the silhouette first. I wanted him to feel the weight of the silence before I spoke. "You're late," I whispered, the sound catching on the back of my throat. And I've grown impatient. I felt him move behind me. He didn't touch me yet. He just stood close enough that the heat from his body began to melt the chill of the glass. He was wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars, but I knew what was underneath. The same primal, heavy-set hunger that I carried. He reached out, his fingers tracing the line of my neck, dipping beneath the lace. His skin was rough, a beautiful contrast to the silk. He leaned in, his breath hot against my ear, and told me exactly what he thought of my intellect. He called me a masterpiece that deserved to be defiled. That was the spark. That was the moment the wild took over. I turned, my hands flying to his tie, ripping the silk knot loose with a frantic energy. I didn't want the romance. I wanted the friction. I pushed him back onto the velvet sofa, a deep emerald piece that looked like moss in the moonlight. I straddled him, my bodysuit straining against my skin, the lace biting into my thighs as I ground my weight into his lap. I could feel him through the fabric of his trousers, thick, unyielding, and desperate. I reached down, my nails digging into the fine wool as I unzipped him, freeing the heat. He wasn't gentle. He grabbed my hair, pulling my head back until I was looking at the ceiling, exposing my throat to the cold air and his hot tongue. The first time he entered me, it wasn't a slide, it was a conquest. I gasped, my fingers clawing at the velvet of the sofa, my mind spinning with the sheer, graphic reality of him. He was deep, so deep I could feel the rhythmic pulse of him against my very core. It was intellectual filth in its purest form, the brain screaming for more while the body surrendered to the gravity of the act. I moved with him, my hips tracing a wild, frantic geometry. Every thrust was a sentence I didn't have to speak. The sound of our bodies, the wet, rhythmic slap of skin against skin, was the only literature I needed. I leaned down, biting his shoulder, tasting the salt and the expensive cologne, as he began to hammer into me with a feral intensity that made the room blur. I watched his face, the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes went dark and vacant as the wild claimed him. He flipped me over, pinning me to the velvet. My face pressed into the soft fabric as he took me from behind. The angle was punishing. Perfect. I could feel every inch of him, a heavy sliding friction that made my vision spark white. I began to clench, my muscles acting of their own accord, a rhythmic, desperate grasping for the end. He felt it. He groaned, a low, animal sound that vibrated through my spine, and increased the pace until we were nothing but a blur of lace, sweat, and heaving breath. When the collapse came, it was total. A visceral explosion that left me shaking, draped over the velvet like a discarded ribbon, while the city watched from behind the glass.
That is how a siren feeds. It isn't about the love. It's about the ruin. The way the designer lace feels when it's damp with sweat and discarded on a hardwood floor. The way your voice sounds when it's been reduced to a series of breathless shudders. In the next scene, we explore the chameleons. Zan will take you into a world where the lines between bodies don't just blur, they disappear entirely.